Okay, everyone, good evening.
Good evening.
And welcome to our spring 2025 edition of What Can I Do as an English Major, the education edition. When I conceived of What Can I Do as an English Major, probably back in 2015. One of the things we wanted to do was introduce our graduates, our students to majors outside of the education realm. But our intention for today's event is to sort of see how you can teach and also explore some other alternative avenues within the educational realm. And so today we have two former alumna. We have Dr. Roclande White, who is a 2003 graduate of the English department. I think you were English ed, correct me, right? Okay. Um,
Yes.
and then we also have Zipporah Reeds, who is a 2023 graduate of the English department in modern languages. And so we have a range, right? We have somebody who's been in the field for a while, and then also someone who's newly in it. And so it's very much informal. We'll ask some questions. We'll open it up for our students, our majors to ask some questions as well. And then at the end, we'll probably do a little bit of brainstorming about your next steps as majors and how you can kind of take what our guests tell you about today. So, not to belabor the time, we're going to start with our first question. And as I ask the question, feel free to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. Hold on, let me bring up my questions. All right, can you share a little bit about yourself and your career journey after graduating with an English degree from FAMU?
Okay, I can go first. Of course, because I was English education, I went into teaching directly after graduating from FAMU. I taught high school English, 10th and 12th grade, which I'm not sure why they gave a person straight out of college who was 23 seniors, but hey, I survived. I was a little jaded. I thought I was going to save the world coming out of college. And so when I realized I wasn't going to save the world, I said, well, let me course correct and pivot. Maybe teaching isn't my strong suit. So I actually went to Morgan State for my master's in creative writing. So I have a master's degree in poetry that I don't use. And then uh, I found after school programming. So I found that I did like teaching and I did like working with kids, but maybe not all day. So I did after school programming for a while. And most of that work was with nonprofits. You know, with nonprofits, one thing is big with them was grant writing and funding. And so that's kind of how I got into the grant writing space. And now I am a grant writer for a school district. So even though I tried to get away from being in a school or a school district or a classroom, I have come full circle and I am now back in a school district. So that's kind of how my journey got to where I am now.
And for myself, teaching was not my first choice. However, I've always had experience with children in schools, working whether that be summer camps or after school programs. So after graduation, I just thought it would be a good way to get some experience just in the professional world because it takes a lot, and I learned and I've gained a lot so far. I'm on my second year of teaching in Clark County, Athens, Georgia. And it's been a ride, but now I know for sure that teaching embodies the skills of many other jobs. So, with my degree and also just the experience in education, I think I can really go anywhere because, like you mentioned, Dr. Henry, like English majors, like it applies to so much more than just education.
Good, thank you. So our next question, were you originally an English major when you were at FAMU, or did you sort of shift and change, or did you always know that you wanted to major in English? And if not, what else were you a major? What else was your major?
I started in elementary education. I thought from early childhood that I wanted to be a teacher. But then when I got to elementary education, they told me I had to teach all the subjects. I knew math was not my skill set. I was like, I want to do that. I want to teach math. So I had always been good in English. And so I was like, well, let me do English secondary education. So that way I can still teach and it can be something that I actually enjoy. Because if I had to teach science, math, and social studies, I don't know if I would have lasted at all.
English has always been my major throughout my whole college career because I've always had a love for writing. And I love how the English major incorporates literature into that as well. I've grown to really appreciate all the books I read throughout my stay at FAMU.
Can you tell us a little bit about your everyday? So, like, take us through kind of what you start with in the morning to the end of the day, and
My
also
pleasure.
include like the work-life balance, right? Kind of how you juggle that as well.
Um, Prior to January 20th, I went to work every day looking forward to going to work, starting with being optimistic, kind of seeing what grants I had to work on and seeing where they were in the process and what other projects I needed to start working on now. Because I am in the education system and there has been some banter around what federal funding looks like moving forward. It's a little bit uneasy going into work now because I don't have a lot of the answers. And of course, a lot of school districts and states don't have the answers, but the people on the ground have all the questions. And so they're like, can we continue to run this program? Because it's federally funded. Like right now, I'm currently working on 2 federally funded grants, and I'm hoping that we have the funding to do them. So like I said, prior to January 20th, I would have said my day was pretty straightforward, go to work on my grants, work with my team, and then you go home and just relax. Now it's like answering all the questions to make sure people feel comfortable with moving forward and applying for the grants, even though we don't have necessarily the certainty that the funding will be there. And it's unfortunate because one of the grants is because we had a school shooting earlier in the school year. And so there's a chance we won't be able to get funding to support that school returning back to the learning environment because of the changes that are going forth. So it's a little stressful, a little uneasy. And I'm pretty sure Zipporah can talk about this as well. I chose 2 professions that I knew would always be a needed profession. Either I could be a teacher, I could be a grant writer. I never thought in my days there would be there might be a chance that those 2 professions would not be viable. So
For me, my daily schedule is really rigorous. The school day in Clark County starts at 7:10, so I have the students bright and early. Um, then around 8, I take them to specials. There's a lot of transitions. We have to go to special classes. Then, of course, there's lunch and then recess. And we have a little over 50 minutes for reading, math, and science. We have to alternate between science and history, which I don't like because I love history. But when we finish all of the science units, then we will spend the rest of the year on history. And we're in that time of the school year where we have to get ready for standardized testing. In Georgia, it's called the Georgia Milestones. So we're going to shift gears and teach students testing strategies and move a little bit away from teaching them new content and just reviewing things so that way they're prepared in April for testing. At times, teaching can be really heavy, not just with dealing with students and their personalities and their energy, but even with other adults and just the workload. Like my first year last year, I learned that teaching was so much more than just dealing with the kids. Like it's a lot of paperwork now, and I'm being told that this is a new change, like since COVID, but it's a lot of paperwork, it's a lot of online work, a lot of keeping data, tracking students. So that can just be very like take a toll. So as far as work-life balance, I think the key to having that in education is making sure you have a good community, like people to hang out with and blow off steam with after work, and good hobbies, just something to keep your mind busy and or keep your hands busy so that way like your job, even though it can be a lot, it's not your everything. So when you come home, you're not still thinking about it, you know?
So just a follow-up question for both of you. So Zipporah, you're not just teaching English, right? So you're teaching all the subjects as a
Yes,
fifth
ma'am.
grade teacher, right? So did you have to do any kind of additional training or certification test or anything that you can tell our majors about?
In Georgia, you do not need to per se. You can apply for a provisional license, which is what I did. And all you have to do for that is take an ethics exam on how to be a professional and then take an exam over your grade level content. So I would have to take content like a test about fifth grade content, math, science, history, things of that nature, and reading. Um, have an offer letter, a college degree, and pass a background check, of course. And that's all. And towards the end of your certificate, which is about 3 years, you can apply to an accredited teaching program to earn your master's. And that way, your certificate will be um, not denied, it'll be prolonged and you can continue to teach. Mhm.
All right, Frank, we'll get your question in a minute. Dr. White, what about you? Did you take any training for grant writing or did you just kind of learn on the ground?
I did. So one of the first school, well, actually the second school I worked at, it was a charter school, and so they were like, "Hey, you have an English teacher background, so you know how to write papers. We're going to send you to some grant trainings," and so that's kind of how I got started. So I've done sessions on my own on grant and funding and managing the process. And then I've also done some grant conferences that are on the national level just to see what my colleagues in the work are doing. So I try to keep up on the changes and so forth. And I'm also in some professional networks in my state. I'm in Maryland, by the way. I do some professional networks with the grant writers for all the school districts in the state. So we keep each other abreast on different changes and things of that nature.
All right, Frank, you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Hey, good evening, y'all. I was trying to put it in the chat room, but I'm a slow typer, so I'm on sentence two, so I'll just go ahead and say it. First of all, thank y'all for holding this meeting. Thank y'all for attending. I took some classes with Miss Reeds, so congratulations to you being where you are. What I was going to ask, what can we do as current students and English majors to remain aware of the social and political currents that are going on right now? How can we support and build community around? Because that's going to be something that's going to be controversial, and it's something that's going to be on and off the table for probably the next 10, 15 years, I'm sure. So what can we start doing now?
I think for you as students, being abreast on the different platforms that the current administration is sharing information, and also being abreast on the actual sites, because the current administration likes to use social media as their main source of sharing information, but there are other options. There are the actual official sites that a lot of these government offices house, and they put information out there. And then also working with whoever is if you're in a cohort or whoever's in your class, kind of seeing who has that same trajectory. So I know everybody, because like I said, I was secondary education English, but most of my classes were with English majors. So we made kind of like a little cohort amongst ourselves. That's how I met Dr. Henry. And staying abreast that way. And because really you're not going to know, because everything changes day to day, it seems like. So there isn't a good way to keep up on everything. But if you have people in your cohort, so everybody's keeping up with a little bit of something, y'all sharing that information amongst yourselves, and just kind of staying in the loop. If you have people who are already in the field, talking to them. So for example, like I said, I'm in Maryland, so of course I have a lot of friends who work in DC or who work for federal government. So I hear a lot of things from them, because they're frontline staff. So if you have people in the work, that's been really helpful because, that whole thing that came out this weekend about your 5 bullets, I didn't even realize until I talked to my friend that she was one of those people who got one of the 5 bullets. Or I didn't realize until one of my other friends posted, who's also a FAMU grad, that she was one of the people who was laid off in that mass sweep of IRS people that were laid off. So keeping in touch with your people that are already in the field, because they really give you the information straight hand, and they also can tell you how it's affecting them.
Thank you.
I completely agree with Dr. White. I think the best way that you can contribute is just continuing to educate yourself on the things going around having to do with the public education system as well. Because if you educate yourself, you'll just be more prepared for when you go into the field, and you'll be more able to help the people around you, as well as supporting the school district that you choose to work in.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you asked that question because it just allows us to kind of see how you have to pivot within your career path, right? And have to deal with stuff that is kind of outside of you. And I know, Dr. White, you are doing the grant writing. Is there anything that you would say, and this is for both of you, that you would say that you learned from your English major or English degree that has helped you the most? Like, what particular skill would you say?
It's gonna sound very elementary, but just literally the skill of writing. As soon as I tell people I'm a grant writer, the first thing they say is, "Oh, I couldn't write a grant," and I'm like, "Well, you passed the English class in college. You saw a prompt and you wrote to that prompt. That's very basic, baseline what grant writing is." So I think also the research part, because I realize a lot of people, unless they're doing advanced degrees, they don't necessarily always know how to do in-depth research. Some people are like, "Oh, Google, that's my research." Oh, honey, Google is not the only option. So usually what happens is a lot of my grant people, they have great ideas of what they want to do, but they don't have the data and the references and the documentation to back it up. So what I'll have to do is go and research and find information that goes along with what they're trying to say. So luckily, when you're a student, you still have your access to your academic college library. And usually when you graduate, you have access to it as well. So I use that often because, you can only find certain things like on Google Scholar. Sometimes you actually have to be attached to a university to find some more of those in-depth research and data points to add into my grant writing.
For me, I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again so I can frame my answer?
What skills from your English degree do you think has been most valuable?
I would say adaptability for sure, because each class I took at FAMU, I had to figure out how to write notes a different way, how to read a different way, how to schedule my my workload every single semester. And that is very, very important in teaching. Dealing with meetings constantly every day. You have to learn how to work with different people, especially the students, because not every student is the same. So you have to be willing to change and have to be open to change and encouraging about it too. It's going to be really hard for you if you're just really hard at it, like you're just really bad at it.
So to continue down that line, how do you continue to grow your skill set? And I know, Dr. White, you said you take some grant writing. Zipporah, have you taken any sort of like specific teaching? What would we call it? Like teaching
Coursework. So
workshops
usually
or
at
anything?
PDs at your school, or professional learning opportunities or communities.
I haven't done anything on my own time, but my county offers that every semester. And with my school, we're required to have an after school planning day where we have time to learn more things. And right now we're required to finish literacy modules on Canvas. So it's a whole thing. So I would count that.
You.
You're muted.
Yeah, I need to figure out how to undo it without. Can't you press the space bar? Yeah, unmute yourself. Yes, no, maybe.
No.
Are there any unexpected ways your degree has helped you within your career or as you have shifted and changed in your career path? Are there any unexpected ways it's helped you?
I think so. Just because one of the things you learn in the English major, you have to take like public speaking and different things of that nature. So that builds my confidence up because I have to do a lot of presentations for the leadership or the superintendent of the district or the board of education for the district. And so having those skills and being articulate in all of those skills that I learned at FAMU have been helpful because for me, I was really shy and I'm really to myself, but being able to have those conversations with diverse people and being able to use my knowledge and skill set that I've gained through my English degree has been helpful.
I agree. And for me, it would especially be having enough background knowledge to teach. A lot of the curriculums in schools are very scripted, and at times the administration is very strict about staying on that script. But I can notice when it's not working for my students, so I'm able to, because of all the classes I've taken, all the history classes and whatnot, I can understand what they're supposed to be learning and give them some more filler and background information to help them succeed.
Do you find yourself favoring the English, the English lessons more than anything else?
It really depends because it's actually just like college where we're all reading a book. When I was in school, I remember we had one big textbook full of little short stories and we would spend like a week reading each one. But now we do novel study in fifth grade. So I really liked our first book, which was called Thunder Rolling in the Mountains about the westward expansion. And it showed students just the real brutality of manifest destiny and whatnot. But for the most part, outside of that, I like teaching science the most because they're awake for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, let's see, what else did I have? One more question and I'll open it up for our majors. Um, what should English majors know about transitioning from college to a career in education? So, what would be your greatest piece of advice to them about that transition period? Like when you don't necessarily know where you're headed, but you know you have to head somewhere because you have bills to pay. So can you talk about that transition period and what it can do to prepare for it?
Well, my transition period was 20 something years ago. Jeez. My transition period was 20 something years ago. But one of the things I realized, like Dr. Henry said, is you have to have somewhere to go. And I didn't necessarily have anywhere to go except for home. And one of the things that I learned in moving home is that at that time, every state has their own certification. I think now it's a little bit more uniform where a lot of states are moving and doing the practice and the different levels of the practice. But when I graduated, that was not the case. Florida had their own, and so it was a graduation requirement. So I passed Florida's and I get to Ohio, and they were like, "It's not reciprocal. You got to do hours." And I literally missed Ohio's practice by like 1 point. So because of that, my first year of teaching, I had to be categorized as a long-term sub until I retook the test. And I was a little upset about that because long-term subs don't get paid well. And I was like, well, I guess I'm staying at home with my mom. I'm not paying a lot of stuff. So my thing would make sure if you know that you're 100% going into teaching, look into your district to see what the requirements are to make sure that you meet those, especially if you are going into a district outside of Florida. Florida, you know, of course, FAMU is going to make sure you have all the requirements if you're moving into a Florida district, but some of those districts outside of Florida might have different requirements. They might have different protocols. So for example, Ohio Now, if I went to be a teacher in Ohio Now, I wouldn't, because they have what's called, it's a post-teaching experience. So even though you've already done your student teaching at whatever university, you've passed all your classes, you still have to do a 3-year observation period where you are collecting artifacts, you're coming in to do site visits and all of that before you get your long-term teaching certification. So just think, I just finished all these years of college, and now you tell me I can't even get my real certification unless I finish this program. So that would have been something that a lot of other states don't do. So that would be something to be cognizant of, just knowing what your state that you plan on going into requires of you.
And I know you talked about like how professionally you kind of handle that, but how do you handle like not knowing what exactly you want to do, right? So like I have all of my students who graduate, they'll email me and say, Tatiana, I just don't know what to do or what's happening or where to go. How do you kind of handle and deal with that stress? And this is for Zipporah as well.
I would say
you're more recent Zipporah, because at this point I was cussing.
I would say just taking your time with it, because even though I'm within like a career right now, I still feel the same way sometimes. So I don't think that is something that goes away, especially in the world that we live in right now with everything going on. It feels like nothing is permanent. So I wouldn't like, it's hard to say like don't stress about it. Of course you're gonna stress, but just know like everything really is going to work itself out. It just takes time. Like what I realized really quickly after graduating is that nothing was going to just fall into line immediately. That's not reality. Like it does take time to really figure it out. And you should take your time with it, because if you rush into something, it could not set you back necessarily, but you get there and you realize it's not where you want to be. And so now you have to repeat that cycle. So that could all be avoided if you just continue to take your time and really weigh all your options out. And you can pick something and then you can go back to the drawing board, pick something else, and then back again. And that is okay.
I would agree. And I think if a lot of your students are coming out and they're English majors or English education majors, I would say try substitute teaching. Because as I said before, after my second year of teaching, I was like, I don't ever want to teach again. I don't care if I ever see another kid again, adult, nobody. So, and then fast forward 20 years, I have been in education for 20 years, even though I've tried to leave at various points. Because me becoming a grant writer for the district, though I did it through my nonprofit work for after school programs, it was a way for me to finally get out of a school. Because after COVID, I was like, I'm not going back. Y'all got germs. I'm not. So, but again, I'm still at a school district. So even though I left the classroom, I didn't leave education. Even though I've tried like my master's, I'm like, I didn't get a master's in education because I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this forever. So I would say, tell your students, try substitute teaching if they think that is something they might want to go into before they do the long-term commitment of becoming a teacher, because substitute teaching will give you an eye-opening experience. It's a little bit more than your actual student teaching experience, because you get to experience different classes and different grade levels, and you can find out that you might find your niche somewhere else. Like as I said, I'm certified 7th through 12th. If I never see a high school or middle school kid in my life, I'll be fine. Because when I moved to Baltimore, I worked for an after school program, and they gave me kindergarten. And there's my first day. I was like, ooh, you hate me. You gave me kindergartners. I've been teaching 7th graders, 10th graders, 12th graders. But I found out I like the little kids better. Like I would do elementary every day, even though I was like, I don't think I would like this. But I would work with elementary kids every day. So try out different, like Zipporah said, try out different things, see what kind of works for you. But just be cognizant that it's okay to fail. Like I definitely was at home a lot longer than I intended because I didn't get into grad school right away like I wanted to. Same thing like with my doctoral program. I was like, ooh, I don't want a doctorate. And then my friends were like, you should do it. And I was like, I'm gonna do it. So you just have to be open because everything, you might find what you're passionate in. I would have never thought I was passionate to work with elementary kids or working after school programs because I was just so jaded after my first 2 years of teaching. And that's what happens to a lot of educators. If the first few years, if it's rough, they'll leave. And that's why we're seeing a mass exodus. So that's why it's good to, try subbing before you take that leap into your own classroom because you don't want to be stuck somewhere that you can't leave. Because I don't know if Zipporah district does this, but a lot of districts, if you break your contract, they can pull your teacher certification for a year. Now, most districts don't do that. Like I said, I've been in different districts. I've been in districts in Ohio, DC, Maryland. The district I work in now, they pull your certification. So say, for example, Zipporah woke up today and was like, I don't want to do this. I've had enough. And she goes to break her contract, they'll take her teaching certification for a year.
I believe they do that in Clark County. I 100% agree with you too. Like experience with children in general is really important, especially because if you get that experience and do it for long enough, you can really master classroom management, or management of just big groups of kids, because that's really key to it. I'm not really too keen on all the different education strategies and lesson planning and detailing and all the jargon that goes into curriculum planning. But I know my students and they respect me and they listen. So at least when I walk in my classroom, they're not stressing me out. I just have to handle my stuff. And that helps a lot because it could be the other way around where you have your degree in education, but you don't really know how to interact or connect with kids. So they see that. They always feed off of energy. They smell fear, all of that. So that's going to make it really hard every day when you go into work. And the best way to get that experience can be like working in an after school program or a summer camp or even tutoring.
All right, thank you. So we're going to open it up to our majors. If any of you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask.
I saw Kishana had a
Oh,
question.
Kishana put one in the chat. Let's see.
Yes, I typed it in there so I wouldn't
Okay.
forget.
Go ahead and ask.
So, well, I'll say a little bit first, and then both of you guys can answer. To kind of just give some advice. So, greetings. I'm Kishana Davis, fourth year English scholar from Los Angeles, California. So I'm so excited. I'll be graduating in May. Yay! So one of the things that I wanted to do was become a tutor because, especially for myself having children, one of the things that I notice is when they are having to structure their papers or do research for the papers, they're having trouble really understanding what type of sources they need to find. And that's even when I had Dr. Yan's class last semester. A few students came to me and they were asking for some help because I was one of the first people to do my presentation. And one of the things that we were discussing is she was saying how my sources were really great. And so that's an area for me that I feel like a lot of students struggle with. And I feel like if there was this little bridge to kind of gap between graduating from high school and then entering into your undergrad, the transition is very different because it's like what they're learning in high school and then they get to their freshman year in college. I feel personally that it's just something totally different. And then that's where a lot of them become lost and then they don't know what to do. So for me, if I wanted to step into the shoes to be able to tutor someone, and then especially with you guys having experience with students, what are some things that you guys can offer to me that would be helpful for the students?
So I can say, oh, go ahead.
You can go ahead.
So I can say when I was at FAM, one of the things I did to kind of get more teaching experience is I went to one of the local elementary schools. Because like I said, I started out as elementary ed, and I spoke to the principal and asked him like, "Hey, I'm a education major at FAMU. I'm trying to get more experience. Can I tutor kids?" And so the principal ended up doing was connect me with one of the teachers, and I actually would tutor a couple of students either during school, depending on what my schedule was, or if they had like an after school time, I could tutor the students there. And so that was kind of my first experience with getting to tutor. So, there are high schools in the area that probably would be open to that, because if you're not charging, they always like free resources. So, and then also that can be a good leg into education. So when you start looking for people to do your letters of recommendation, you can say, "Hey, I tutored at this school. This is the principal." Make that networking connection, and go from there.
I
That was great. Thank you.
I feel like I don't know if I can speak too much on a high school perspective since my students are so young, still in elementary. But one thing I think that would help you bring a lot to the table is just being aware of other resources you could use when you start tutoring, going ahead and researching and finding out what online tools there are or different ways to assess students. So that way, as soon as you get a group, you can test them, see where they are, and get like right to work, rather than wasting time trying to figure out how to meet every single child's needs.
Yeah, that's some yes. Yes, thank you. That was some great information. Thank you so much.
Yeah, because usually, and if you, like I said, if you go to a school and they're able to connect you with the teacher and you build that rapport with the teacher, because that's what ended up happening. So the teacher referred students that they thought needed additional support for me to tutor, and so the teacher can tell you like, "Hey, this person is struggling with X, Y, and Z. So if you could work on them with this." But a lot of schools do have in-school tutoring options. So that might be an option. I don't know what your class schedule is, so it might be something where you can do it during your class schedule if you have time during the day. But there are also a lot of schools tend to have after school programs. And so usually with after school programs, even with high school, there's an academic component. So you can say, "Hey, do you have an after school program? If there's an academic component, I'm willing to come in and help with some of the English language, arts, ELA areas so the kids can get ready for that transition into college or undergrad."
Yeah. Yes. Great advice.
All right. Any other questions for? Go ahead, Frank.
All right. I had a question. Both of y'all talked about your passions. I heard Dr. White about your degree in poetry. Is that correct? And
Yes.
I know that Miss Reeds is a storyteller. How even though you might not be working on the field that you plan to, but you have a passionate background in something you do as in storytelling, as in poetry and things. I know that you're able to find those pockets to where you can implement that into your job as well. Like in the process of grant writing, I know storytelling is important,
Yes.
or the way that you even say things to be able to marry technical data to that. And
Yes.
I know the creativity that you use, Miss Reeves, and the way that you teach with your kids, you're probably able to bring out a story that they'll be able to comprehend. Is that something? So even if you're not working in your determined field, that you can still use something that you believe in to achieve?
Yes, absolutely. And I think the students always appreciate that because it'll set you apart from like a boring teacher, or it just shows them that you're giving effort into making a lesson creative or interesting, or even just sharing a part of you in a way. Mhm.
And I think for
Pour
me,
into them.
the creative writing aspect helps paint a very vivid picture. For me, I do a lot of grants for some of our higher need schools or quote unquote low income schools. And so for me, it's about painting a picture that though they are high needs and they have all these areas where they need resources, they're still, a vibrant population. They still are worthy of all the things that their non-high needs counterparts are deserving of. And so just making the picture look as, for lack of better terms, pretty as possible, even though the information that I'm sharing with the funder is probably a little bit more negative, so to speak.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And I know we have two former English Lit Guild presidents on the line. I'm not gonna put them on the spot. But Madeline, we're gonna hit you up next time. I totally didn't even think about you for this one, but Madeline graduated, oh, how many years ago now? 2021, Madeline? Or was it before then?
I thought it was 19.
2019? Is she still
I
on
don't
here?
know. I'm not sure.
Okay, she's still on here. Maybe she'll jump in and I don't want to put her on the spot. But we also have Michaela. Hey, Michaela.
Hey y'all. Hi everyone. I
Hey.
actually do I don't have a question really. I think Frank asked my question. I would be on camera, but I'm driving. I'm sorry, y'all.
Okay.
Um but I'm just like personally, I'm in a space right now where I'm trying to figure out how I can combine like all of my interests. I want to go to library I want to do a master's in library science. I'm thinking that's going to be my next step. So I'm always trying to figure out like how can I combine everything that I'm interested in, everything that I enjoy doing. So I love asking, incorporate that into where you are and then like where you want to end up, how you want to like bridge those gaps. So, it's just great hearing that you get to like incorporate those interests and then those strengths into the grant writing, but then also into the classroom. And I'm sure, like Zipporah said, like kids pick up on that and they see like, okay, this person they're coming from like an interesting angle, or like they have a certain interest in this thing, and that makes them an engaging and exciting teacher. So thank y'all for sharing that.
Can I just make a pitch on the tail end of what Michaela said? So the faculty in our department are working to try to establish more of a mentor connection with our current majors and with our recent graduates or not recent graduates. We're trying to bring in everyone so that y'all have more opportunities or communities like this to kind of pick the brains of people who are on a trajectory similar to where you'd like to be. And so my pitch is just to please make sure that if you're a recent grad, if you're like Dr. White or an alumni person, that we have your contact information, because that's something that we're working on currently. And if you're a major and if your professor has mentioned to you the English major or minor form, just it's kind of just an interest sheet to see like what your career trajectory is or what your aspirations are, so we can try to pair you with an alumni or a faculty member who can help you sort out those ideas, or even like kind of maybe they're in that career field or on that path. Please fill that out and send it back. Again, if you're an alumni, just make sure we have your like current email that you use, that you wouldn't mind us reaching out to you for that. Okay, that's all.
Hey, can you hear me?
We can. Hey, Madeline.
Oh, hey, Lit Guild. I'm eating right now, so forgive me. But I just wanted to say, first and foremost, that I miss everyone. And I hope that I can come home in April, because we were all invited back. So I graduated in 2019 with my Bachelor of Arts in English. And then rapidly in 2020, I graduated with my Master of Applied Social Science and History. And I can honestly say that I have done everything that I've imagined doing with my English degree. I was able to teach, my goodness, from about, well, so far I've taught from kindergarten through college. And I am planning to finish my PhD program. I took a break, but right now I am actually a visual artist, and I've just done so much because I know how to articulate my story through writing and words, public speaking, things like that. And also because I've had such an amazing, I'm almost going to cry, an amazing experience of um, what do you call it? Mentors, right? So Dr. Henry and Dr. Hudson are the absolute best in the country. And the way that they've kept us together straight through a pandemic is incredible. But I also want to say that being at FAMU is such a special place. And I've been able to reach out to people through graduate school. I mean, I almost said understudy. As an undergrad, it was just a no-brainer. But sometimes you feel like you lose touch when you become a grad student, and that really didn't happen to me. I had to move away, so now I'm in North Carolina, where I moved to a place that's pretty secluded, and that wasn't really a good thing for me. But what I did do is start to pay attention and hone in on the other things that I wanted to do when I didn't have the time. And so with that, I started publishing a lot of my English writing. I took time to do a lot of painting and creating. And now those things are actually being highlighted in public spaces. And so, with all that, because I feel like when I start to talk, I go on forever because I'm in awe of the things that I've been able to do with an English degree. But I'd also like to give you um, a way to contact me anytime through Instagram, and that's info dot the Madeline School. And Dr. Henry knows it. You can share my link anytime. And so, yeah, so what I do there is just really try to encourage people wherever you might be in your career and answer questions that might not be familiar to other people, but that are to you because you are an English major, right? Which is a very special thing and which is the foundation of all we do. So that is it. My sermon is over.
All right. Thank you, Madeline, for dropping in. We're going to get you back for one of these.
Okay,
Probably not in this spring, but maybe in the fall.
that's fine. Let me five
All right.
people.
If nobody has any other questions, I just want to thank Zipporah and Dr. White for agreeing to do this last minute. Dr. White is actually my best friend. And she stepped in the last moment and did this for us. I think she was one of our first participants, right? When we started this back in 2015, 2016. I don't think
Yep.
she's done it since then. No, you've done it twice. This the third time, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we want to thank Zipporah and Dr. White for showing up for our majors and giving us this awesome information. So we wish both of you the best of luck with your educational path. Stay connected to us, right? Of course, y'all know I'm going to reach out anyway. Zipporah, we still have your baby, which is the little library. She's struggling a little bit.
Oh no.
Yeah, she's leaning a little bit, but we gonna get her right in a couple weeks. So again, I want to thank the majors for attending as well. We'll probably put this on YouTube at some point. So again, thank you for attending, and thank you, Dr. White and Zipporah, for being our guests.
Absolutely. So what is the little library? I'm curious.
You know, the little free libraries where they had the books. You put a book in and take a book out.
I need some books.
Yeah, if you got some, send us some.
I got some pandemic books at the house.
Yeah, send us
Now that I'm
some.
not in the school.
Well, we mostly want like, are they kid books?
I got adult books. We had a big book donation right before COVID hit.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with these? Okay, elementary kids.
Okay, yeah, send them to me.
Alrighty.
All right, and so just a plug for next week. Of course, we have our book meeting, our book club meeting. We will be reading oh, my brain is not gonna work. I'll send out an email. exactly what we're reading. Oh, yeah, the best that you can do. We're gonna actually do the section is a small section. Frank, help me out. It's like the third or fourth section of the book. Can you look it up real quick? The table of contents. So they're like really small stories, but they are sectioned off into. Remind me the one I chose. Let me see.
So there's the best that you can do is 73. Is
No,
that
what's the one before that? The section before.
before Thankful Chinese, before Surely Not, You'll Go, We Wonder. I think it was, now I don't know.
I'm sorry. I'll send out an email. I don't want to hold y'all up. All right. Again, good night, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye, y'all. Have a good day.